From Recorded Future News and PRX, this is Click Here. Hey, it's Dina. Before we start today, a quick note. The story you're about to hear originally aired a while back. We're returning to it because the tactics it describes are showing up again, right now in places like Iran. When governments feel threatened, one of the first things they reach for is technology. Tools to track people, watch dissent, and control what the world can see. This story from Syria shows how that playbook works.
Some people try to show me some of their memories about back home, and some memories or photos were taken.
Noura Al-Jizawi's home movies are a little different than you'd expect. They don't capture her at birthday parties or running around a garden or show her parents mugging for the camera. She grew up in an entirely different world from that. In fact, her home movies don't have any identifiable characters at all. Like this short video of just two hands spray painting a call for democracy on a wall. The music is blaring from a nearby cafe, and even that carried some risks. What if the authorities somehow could recognize those hands? Her friend used to joke about that.
And even I remember he was telling me, do you know that they could see the video and recognize my hand and then arrest me and maybe cut this hand? I was like, no, stop saying that.
Even in the relative anonymity of a mass demonstration, it turns out there was no guarantee of safety. That was just the reality of growing up in Syria. You were always being watched.
The regime back then got new surveillance technology to identify the locations, the exact locations of people through tracking their SIM cards. So the regime could identify back then my location through GPS and so on.
SIM cards, GPS tracking. We've always known that technology can be a double-edged sword. But what if the internet never lets you go, even when you cross a border? I'm Dina Temple-Raston, and this is Click Here, a podcast about the people making and breaking our digital world. Today on the show, an activist who managed to escape Syria until a piece of code made sure she couldn't run and couldn't hide. Stay with us. Noura Al-Jizawi grew up in a family where activism ran deep. Her grandfather was a political activist. Her uncles were too. So it was sort of in your blood to be an activist?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it's my fate. It was my fate since the very first moment of my life.
Noura grew up in Syria in the 1990s, a time when Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad had absolute unchallenged power. Something that showed up not just in big, unmistakable ways, but in smaller ones, too. Noura remembers watching fathers in her neighborhood disappear. And they wouldn't just be gone. They'd be sort of erased.
People were so afraid about talking and telling even the children about what happened to their fathers when they disappeared.
And the few who returned,
we call them back from the death.
So when she was preparing to go to university, she told her father she wanted to be a lawyer.
My dad looked at me, he said, how do you want to be a lawyer in a country where there's no rule of law? You will end up doing nothing.
She was crushed.
The reality that we can't have a dream because there is this authoritarian regime.
A friend eventually chose her university major for her, Arabic literature. Not a calling exactly, but a compromise. And unexpectedly, it became a lens. Universities were closely monitored by the regime, but the literature carried something harder to police: memory, dissent.
In the history of the Arab world, we had definitely a lot of authoritarianism. So I focus a lot on studying the literature that has been written under the authoritarianism. And yeah, it's incredible.
Her growing curiosity about power, fear, oppression eventually pushed her online, carefully. Because even before she understood surveillance, she felt it.
We grew up having this, you can feel like it's a collective fear that we are being watched all the time. We even grew up listening and being told by our parents that walls have ears. So when we start learning how to go online and start searching, we had this inside us. There was a voice in my head telling me that the regime is watching.
She learned how to use VPNs and other ways to stay safe online. And once logged in, she carefully made her way to human rights reports and independent blogs.
I would go online, find the article, and then print it at home in my place, and then take it secretly in a book to the university, and then sit in the corner dealing with something illegal. We were dealing with these thoughts and ideas about democracy.
She began meeting like-minded students and then started writing a blog under a pseudonym. So how long did you get to do this before you got into trouble?
Around 2 years.
She was in class one day, probably taking notes as usual, when officers burst in.
We were in a lecture and I was taken. And everyone was watching.
It didn't need explaining. They'd all seen this before.
Security forces dressing up like anyone else without any court warrant, just showing up, kidnapping in person.
The second time they came for her, she was on a bus. This time, there was no confusion about what it meant, so she steeled herself.
The moment I was arrested, I stopped thinking about myself. All what I've been thinking is how to protect people outside, how to prevent them from reaching and arresting the others.
For 7 months, she was held in custody. They interrogated her, they tortured her, but she didn't give them any names, and eventually she was released. But the pressure didn't stop. Soon after, authorities detained her sister.
She was tortured a lot because of me, and in addition to her activism. But when she was released, she really needed medical care and so on.
That was when Noura decided they had to leave, not just for her own safety, but for her sister's. So she took her and fled, first to Turkey, and then eventually to Canada, hoping that distance might finally be enough to make the regime stop. Do you feel safe?
No, not at all. I don't believe that regime stopped chasing me ever, even when I was in Turkey. Between the moment I crossed the borders to Turkey and the moment I flew to Canada, I believe that there was no single moment that the regime left me alone.
Noura was right to be worried. That's after the break. Stay with us.
It is called Internet.
I use the World Wide Web information superhighway.
Cybersecurity. Why do things go viral?
Click here.
Noura kept speaking out in Canada, and the regime responded, first in the old-fashioned way. Intelligence agents visited the family she'd left behind in Syria. They even questioned her grandmother.
Yeah, my grandmother, she used to receive a lot of these visits from the security guards telling her, you should talk to your to Noura and tell her to stay silent. And she was so strong. She kept telling them, you push her away of the borders. I can't have my lovely granddaughter anymore. So you go and tell her. I will never tell her anything. Yeah.
Then, years later, she received an email from a group called Assad Crimes. It looked plausible, but she paused.
I didn't open the attachment, but instead I told my husband. Then he took a look.
Her husband, a cybersecurity expert, brought it to the Citizen Lab at the University of Toronto. They study the intersection of technology, human rights, and security. And researchers there confirmed Noura's suspicion.
So the attachment, it seems like something badly designed, social engineering attempt to pursue me to open it.
As they examined the email, they found little digital fingerprints that led right to an Assad ally. And she learned that this was part of a broader campaign, targeting lots of Syrians who had already fled.
And it would be a massive phishing campaign targeting a lot of people.
She had been detained multiple times, tortured even, but this felt different.
Yeah, I remember when I was in detention and under torture. In the interrogation, I was able to make control on the information I would share with them. But when it comes to the transnational digital repression and having spy in your pocket, taking this spy everywhere, even to your bed, to your very personal meetings, it's like something you can't have control over it.
Noura is not the only dissident who's been chased across borders. In 2018, the world watched in horror as this happened.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman personally approved the murder of the exiled journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
It was at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul that Jamal Khashoggi met his brutal end.
Spyware was used to monitor those in his inner circle before and even after his death.
What ended as a brutal murder started in part with a phone hack. Someone broke into his friend's phone.
They had been communicating privately over many, many weeks and months over what they thought was an encrypted messaging application, WhatsApp. But the whole time, Saudi operatives had been monitoring from afar.
That's Ron Diebert. He runs the Citizen Lab. The phone hack of Khashoggi's friend exposed their conversations, including plans Khashoggi had to support dissidents against the regime. Weeks later, Khashoggi was killed.
With Omar, clearly he experienced horrible trauma. Just knowing that his hack device may have contributed to the murder of his good friend, it just left him, unfortunately, damaged. And he grapples with it to this day.
What's most unsettling is how little it took. With the right software, Saudi authorities didn't need agents on the ground. They could just monitor a Khashoggi associate living in Canada from thousands of miles away.
They would have had to get inside his apartment, put bugs in his space, and even then the information wouldn't be that useful because he'd have to be talking about something right next to the bug. But now, with a push of a button, they can get inside his head. Right? This is remarkable in terms of the capacity that's been unleashed here.
This is what the Citizen Lab calls despotism as a service. States buying surveillance the way others buy the latest software or tech gadget. You don't need to break in anymore. You just log in.
And to me, this is perhaps the greatest threat to liberal democracy right now, when you stand back and you look at the factors leading to all of this.
Last March, Noura returned to Syria.
So this is Noura's first flight.
This is a video Noura shot from the flight with her 2 kids, flying from Canada back to Syria months after the fall of the Assad regime. At the airport, the moment she'd imagined for years finally arrived, and then slowed down as she crossed back into Syria and returned back home. An official took her passport. Another leafed through it. It disappeared behind a counter. Minutes passed, then more. And she stood there, children beside her, watching uniforms move back and forth.
After spending around half an hour just checking all the arrest warrants against me and say what did you do to him? Why they really wanted you badly? And then when they smiled and they stamped the passport saying welcome home, it was awesome.
She exited the terminal and stepped back onto familiar ground. But something had shifted. The way she held herself had changed. The tension she learned to live with in Syria had disappeared.
And then feeling that I can walk without fear. I can pass by the very same detention center where I was held and tortured. But feeling that it's not the same.
And though she finally feels safer, she doesn't feel finished with her work.
I'm still trying to work with civil society, with journalists, with people on the ground on digital rights. I'm trying to connect with few MPs to reflect on how we need really to focus on the digital space. There is a huge opportunity that we can build from the scratch because everything is destroyed.
What she's describing isn't closure, it's continuation. She has lots of ideas for cyber diplomacy, new policies, ways to hold people to account. And she has a lot more hope. But even still, she remembers.
I feel all of the mixed feelings. You are happy, but you are worried. You are just crying. You are reflecting on all of these years of trauma. You are just remembering.
Remembering friends who vanished, friends who never came home, including Jamal Khashoggi, who was a friend of Noura's.
People who are fleeing the authoritarian regimes, once they arrive in liberal democracies, there's this assumption that they would be safe. But the reality is that it's not enough to be in a liberal democratic country and say that, yeah, these people are now safe, they can build their life again, and so on, because these authoritarian regimes are not leaving them alone. And not only violating their privacies, but also it could be exceed to reach the tragic moment of the assassination of Jamal. And I knew Jamal, and I believe if he can send us a message, now he would say make sure that I will be the last one.
That's the hope, that there's never another Jamal Khashoggi, and that people like Noura, who speak out, who try to tell the truth, who risk everything to do so, don't have to pay the price for the rest of their lives. This is Click Here. Click Here is a production of Recorded Future News and PRX. Today's show was written and produced by Megan Dietrich, Sean Powers, Erica Gaida, Zach Hirsch, and Casey Georgie. It was edited by Karen Duffin and Sarah Quevedo, and fact-checked by Darren Ankrum. Original music is by Ben Livingston, with additional music from Blue Dot Sessions. Our staff writer is Lucas Riley, our illustrator is Megan Goff, and our sound designers and engineers are Jake Cook and Jesse Neiswanger. I'm Dina Temple-Raston, and thanks for listening.